Welcome back. Joining me now is Superintendent of Schools, Jack Dale. Welcome.
Thanks.
Well, we both just came from a meeting that I think our viewers would like to hear a little bit about, a joint meeting between our school board and the Board of Supervisors. The County Executive Ed Long gave an update, you gave an update. So can you summarize for our viewers what
are the updates?
What are the updates?
Well, in short, Ed Long proposed a transfer of only a 2% increase, about $33 million. The bulk of their increase in county revenue is going to go toward dealing with what they call, and we would call also, a structural imbalance in the budget, where you're using one-time savings, if you will, for ongoing revenue, and you can only do that 1 year, and then you've got a big hole. And so they're trying to patch some of that as well as deal with some of their mandatory increases. So that's a summary of that. We have the same situation. In fact, what I spent some time doing with the county is, the Board of Supervisors especially, is trying to identify our holes in the budget for the one-time only money. We've this current fiscal year, we have a little over $100 million of one-time money from our Virginia Retirement System reserve that we had banked, if you will. That'll be depleted now next year. And so our hole of one-time money moved from $100 billion to a little over $80 million for next year. But it's still a huge hole that they've got to plan for, especially with nothing left in our savings, if you will, from that we had kind of a windfall of some state revenue, which we put set aside to deal with the Virginia Retirement System.
Right, and we really made it through those crunch economic years through, we had a bump from the federal government, stimulus funding money.
Yeah.
And
we were very fortunate not to have to do major cuts in programs in schools. We reduced, over 100 people in the central office, and now that's getting really tight in terms of providing services for our schools.
Right.
But the schools, we've grown by like 1,600 people over the last several years because of the student enrollment growth.
So what does it mean to correct the structural imbalance?
It means really putting, instead of one-time savings, you earmark ongoing revenue to fill that hole, or you make cuts. And we would have to make significant cuts in programs if we were going to fill that void, if you will.
Right.
And so what my advocacy of the county would be is, okay, you took care of your structural deficit this year, that'll be fixed forever now. Now next year, come over and fix the school system structural deficit and deal with some of these ongoing issues. Otherwise, we're going to have to cut programs, and people, as Ed Long said, people do not want us to diminish services, either county services or school services to people, so we need to pay attention to that.
Right, yeah, he did say something interesting, that our outstanding school system is part of the Fairfax County brand.
Absolutely. Yeah, the quality of life here led predominantly by the school system, but then the ripple effect into parks and rec and just quality of life and amenities that fire and safety and police, et cetera, that are all part of our day in, day out life. The road system, of course, that's a lot of that state, but we still have to take care of that.
One of the things he did bring up that I know has probably been on everyone's mind is the sequestration and the impact that is yet to be felt.
In fact, on the county side, they were asking Ed to kind of speculate, and it's a tough one. Ed's worried. Their biggest revenue source is property taxes, and so property values decrease because sequestration causes job loss, causes people to sell homes, puts more homes on the market. It's a chain of events that probably occur. The other is stopping to spend discretionary money, and which decreases sales tax revenue. So he's got both of those kind of earmarked in his budget, or paying attention to and accounted for. In addition to that, we have to worry about sales tax revenue and direct funding for our special education. We could lose about
IDEA.
Yeah, IDEA. We could lose another $2 million next year in special education funding, more the following year, more the following year, more the following year, and then also Title I funding, which goes to our most needy elementary schools. We have about 40 elementary schools, and we could lose $1 million to $2 million in Title I funding next year, followed by another loss, followed by another loss, another loss, if sequestration is not resolved in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, that's really serious stuff. There's a little different picture on the state side. You discussed that a bit.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. The state would argue that they increased our funding, but in reality, there's a caveat that you have to give a 2% salary increase to get access to about $6 million of new revenue from the state. We aren't going to be able to afford to do that unless the county significantly changes their revenue picture or their funding stream. So we're going to have to give up that $6 million. The net result is we actually have a decrease of $3.3 million in state funding because of the rest of the formula, if you will, the regular state aid.
Right.
And the other challenge on this money of the $6 million for salary increases, it was only one time. And so it's gone the following year, so it creates that structural deficit of even exacerbates it.
Yeah.
It would add another, really probably $40 million if we filled it in with 33 of one-time money plus the 6. That combination just makes our hole bigger.
Yeah,
the following year.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, what do you see in the future? I mean, what's coming down the pipe?
Well, as I was trying to paint a pretty ugly picture fiscally, is there's going to be a bit of a perfect storm next year potentially. We're out of any of the reserves. And so we have a large structural deficit. We have increased contribution mandated into the Virginia retirement system, assuming legislature next year goes as planned from this year. And so that's going to be another $20 million, probably, maybe 30. And then the other piece that affects Fairfax County Public Schools is the state funding formula goes through a re-benchmarking process every 2 years, and the local composite index is recalibrated. And we expect that to go the wrong direction and decrease our state funding next year.
Wow. Thank you for the news. I'm sorry it's not good news, but thanks.
Yeah.